Theo's just over 2 and I saw him around 3 weeks ago, and he's just starting to get up onto his feet and he's just starting to take steps independently on his own. So we're going to go and see and catch up with how he's doing now. You're doing super! Are you walking? Come on! Lovely walking.
Yay! You did it!
Good job! That is super!
There we go in. We're going to have a go outside.
Can I have a look at your shoes? Can I? Are you wearing some fancy socks? Can I see? Wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. Stretch. Good boy. Show me the... So, I mean, even though he's not done a lot today, I've seen enough of what I kind of need to see in terms of his motor skills and how much he's developed from before. Just needs lots of opportunities to explore his environment, because there's so many opportunities for him to explore, to do lots of outside walking, play, climbing. That's just going to push him on now. There's probably not a specific physio that he really needs at the moment, because he's come on so far. So he's doing really well now. It's really nice to see him at this point of his journey where he's come so far from where he was to where he is now. Big push, 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 push. Good boy, you made it. You made it. You're off. So we arrived here to come and see Zara, who's just over 2 years old and is delayed with her development globally. She has a condition which is currently undiagnosed, but she presents very much like a little one who has a genetic condition. We've been seeing Zara for around 18 months now. We've been doing lots and lots of work with Zara on her transitional movements. She's now sitting up on her own and she sits lovely, and she can pivot around on the floor really well. But what we're trying to do with her at the moment is show her how to move from sitting to lying to kneeling, and we're now working on being able to get her up on her feet too. Oh, good job, Elton. So when we first met Zara, she was incredibly floppy, incredibly bendy, and she would spend most of the time on her back, and it took us a while to get her rolling. We've been working really hard on getting her to sit, and since then her independent sitting has really come on to the point now where she's got much more ability to explore her environment. She's using her hands a lot more functionally. She often will put her hands to her mouth a lot, which means she doesn't use them to help with propping or balancing. I'm really pleased with the work that she's been doing today. She's done some lovely transition movements. She's starting to get over onto her hands and knees and come into a side sitting position. And she's done some of her best standing work today. She's really getting onto her feet a lot more, which is great because it means that we can start to progress her therapy and push her onto that next stage. Leo's 6 years old. He has a condition called cerebral palsy, which affects him globally across all parts of his body. It's called quadriplegia. We first started seeing him when he was 3 years old, and he's come a really long way since then. Over the last 6 months he's started to do much more standing, so we're keeping working on his therapy, and our main goal now is to get him doing some stepping, get him to stand, and working on a little bit of walking. Leo's really bright. He's got loads of personality, and his imagination is something like I've never seen before. He comes up with all kinds of stories. Doing his physio, he makes up his own games and his own stories constantly, which is great for keeping him engaged. It's easier from our point of view when you've got a child that's quite happy to do all the imaginary play that he's happy to. He goes to a mainstream school, so he's around able-bodied peers all the time. And you do sometimes find he goes in cycles in terms of his motivation. He's obviously doing something that's incredibly hard for him in terms of getting up onto his feet and walking, which can become quite frustrating owing to the fact that he is so bright. So he does go in cycles in his motivation sometimes. We have to work with that, give him lots of motivation, give him achievable goals, something that he can feel proud of. And often with children like Leo, it's being able to appreciate the small wins. So something that seems quite subtle or a very small change could take quite a lot of work and is actually a really big change.
No!
Wishful thinking.
We finished!
No, we have not. Leo's really got the gift of the gab and he keeps us on our toes. From a physio point of view, we're working a lot against what his brain and his body is trying to tell him to do. Got lots of extensor tone and lots of what we call spasticity, which is a tightness in his muscles. So all the work that we're doing is to try and help him to control that spasticity, move in a more functional way and strengthen some of those muscle groups that he otherwise wouldn't normally use. So our last one of the day is Polly, and Polly is 6 years old. She's what we would describe as an ex-preterm. She was born at 23 weeks and this has resulted in her having hydrocephalus and she then suffered an injury to her brain, again resulting in cerebral palsy. Polly we've been working with for 2 years and she's at the point now where she's starting to get up on her feet a lot more and we're working on her stepping and her walking. For a child like Polly, she uses at least 4 times as much energy to do a movement than what you or I would. So for her to walk between point A and B, the effort of that or the cost of energy of that to her is much, much higher. So she does get tired quite quickly. So you have to tailor the therapy to give her some periods of rest so she can recuperate the muscle so you're not just working a fatigue muscle. We're getting some really nice extended arm pushing and head extension, which is a really, really difficult thing for Polly to do. She's really improved that from when we saw her and started working out on her with her 2 years ago, where she wasn't able at that point to sit herself up from lying down. Polly's been doing some work with our OT and you can really tell actually seeing her today because the quality of what she's doing with her arm and her hands as she's propping herself up and using them to help with her transition movements. You can see that's really made a big difference for Polly. She's doing some really nice weight shift and some really good quality steps and we're really pleased with the progress that she's making at the moment. So I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into a typical day for us. These are the types of children that we work with and the types of areas that we travel to, but we go all across most parts of Yorkshire, parts of Derbyshire, Lincolnshire and Nottinghamshire also. If there's anything you think that we could help with or if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. You can visit our website ptkids.co.uk or drop us an email office@ptkids.co.uk and we look forward to hearing from you.